The rain that changed everything. The rain fell in heavy sheets across the city that night, turning the streets into dark mirrors that reflected the glow of streetlights. Marcus Wellington sat behind the wheel of his black sedan, his hands gripping the steering wheel a little tighter than usual. The windshield wipers moved back and forth in a steady rhythm, but they could barely keep up with the downpour. Marcus was on his way home from another long day at Wellington Industries. As the CEO of one of the city's largest tech companies, his days were filled with meetings, decisions, and endless paperwork. But lately, the work felt hollow. His penthouse apartment waited for him 20 floors above the city, silent and empty. No one would be there to ask about his day. No warm meal would be waiting on the table. Just silence. He had everything most people dreamed of. Money, success, respect. But somehow, it all felt meaningless when there was no one to share it with. The traffic light ahead turned red, and Marcus eased his foot onto the brake. The rain drummed against the roof of his car like 1,000 tiny fingers. He stared out at the storm, lost in thought. That's when he saw her. A young woman stood on the sidewalk, completely soaked. Her light-colored dress clung to her frame, and her blonde hair was plastered to her face. But what caught Marcus's attention was the small child in her arms. The little girl couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 years old, wearing a pink dress that was just as wet as her mother's clothes. The woman's eyes were desperate, scanning the cars that passed by without stopping. She was looking for help. Before Marcus could think too much about it, the woman spotted his car and rushed toward it. She knocked on the passenger window, her knuckles rapping against the glass with urgent intensity. Marcus hesitated for just a moment. In his world, you learn to be careful. You learn not to trust too easily. But then he looked at the child in the woman's arms. The little girl's face was pale, and her head rested limply against her mother's shoulder. He pressed the button to lower the window. "Please," the woman said, her voice breaking. Rain poured down her face, mixing with what might have been tears. "Please, my child is sick. I need to get her to the hospital. The buses stopped running. No one will stop, please." Marcus looked at the child again. Her eyes were closed, and her breathing seemed shallow. Behind them, through the curtain of rain, he could see the illuminated sign of City C Hospital perhaps half a mile away. "Get in," Marcus said, unlocking the doors. The woman didn't waste a second. She pulled open the back door and climbed in with her daughter, cradling the child close to her chest. Marcus could hear her whispering soft, comforting words. "It's okay, sweetie. We're going to get help now. Mama's got you." Marcus turned the car around and headed toward the hospital. The rain seemed to fall even harder now, as if the sky itself was crying. "What's your name?" Marcus asked, glancing in the rearview mirror. "Emma," the woman replied, her voice trembling. "And this is Lily. She's been sick all day. Fever, chills. I thought it would pass, but then she started having trouble breathing. I called an ambulance, but they said it would be hours. I couldn't wait. I couldn't just sit there and watch her get worse." Marcus's chest tightened. He pressed down harder on the accelerator, speeding through the rain-soaked streets. "We'll be there in just a few minutes. Hang on." Emma nodded, clutching her daughter tighter. Marcus could see the fear in her eyes, raw and real. It was a kind of emotion he rarely encountered in his world of boardrooms and business deals. This was pure, undiluted love, a mother's love. "Thank you," Emma whispered. "I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't stopped." Everyone else just kept driving. Marcus didn't respond immediately. He thought about all the times he'd driven past people in need, too busy or too worried about his own problems to stop. Tonight could have been one of those nights. He could have driven right past Emma and Lily. The thought made him feel cold inside. The hospital entrance came into view, its bright lights cutting through the darkness. Marcus pulled up to the emergency room doors and threw the car into park. He jumped out and opened the back door, helping Emma carry Lily toward the entrance. The automatic doors slid open, and they were hit with a wave of warm, dry air. A nurse at the reception desk looked up and immediately understood the situation. Within seconds, medical staff rushed over with a stretcher. "She's having difficulty breathing," Emma said quickly. "Fever since this morning. Please help her." The medical team took over, placing Lily gently on the stretcher and wheeling her through a set of double doors. Emma moved to follow, but a nurse stopped her gently. "We need to get some information first, ma'am. The doctors are taking care of her right now." Emma nodded, but Marcus could see her whole body was shaking. She was soaked to the bone, standing in a puddle of water on the hospital floor. He took off his suit jacket and draped it over her shoulders. Thank you, Emma said again, looking up at him with red-rimmed eyes. I don't even know your name. Marcus, he replied. Marcus Wellington. Recognition flickered in Emma's eyes, but she didn't say anything about knowing who he was. Instead, she just nodded. Thank you, Marcus. You saved my daughter's life tonight. I just drove, Marcus said quietly. The doctors will save her life. They sat together in the waiting area while Emma filled out paperwork. Marcus knew he could leave. He'd done his part, but something kept him there, sitting in that uncomfortable plastic chair, watching the clock on the wall tick by. An hour passed, then two. Finally, a doctor emerged through the double doors, a small smile on her face. Lily's going to be fine, the doctor said. She has pneumonia, but we caught it in time. We're giving her antibiotics and oxygen. She'll need to stay here for a few days, but she's already breathing easier. Emma's whole body sagged with relief. She covered her face with her hands and began to cry, this time with joy rather than fear. Marcus felt something shift inside his chest. A warmth he hadn't experienced in years. Over the next few days, Marcus found himself returning to the hospital. He brought clothes for Emma, food, books for Lily when she was feeling better. He told himself he was just making sure they were okay, but the truth was simpler than that. For the first time in years, he didn't feel lonely. Emma and Lily didn't have much. Emma worked 2 jobs just to keep a roof over their heads. But they had something Marcus had lost somewhere along his climb to success. They had each other. They had love. They had gratitude for small kindnesses. When Lily was finally discharged, Marcus helped them get home. Their apartment was small but clean, filled with drawings Lily had made and photos on the walls. It was full of life. Would you like to stay for dinner? Emma asked, holding Lily's hand. It's not much, but it's the least we can do. Marcus looked at them standing in the doorway, backlit by the warm glow of their home. He thought about his empty penthouse waiting for him across the city. I'd like that very much, he said, and for the first time in longer than he could remember, Marcus Wellington smiled a real smile. The rain had stopped, and the world seemed brighter somehow.